So the footage you just saw is from 2020 when Hurricane Sally made landfall here in our city. Tons of structures were damaged. There was a lot of flooding. In fact, we had flooding here in our garage as well. We got about 6 to 8 feet of storm surge, and my house is currently on stilts, rising up about 12 feet high. And maybe a couple feet more of storm surge and all of that water would have gotten into our house as well. Our deck was completely destroyed. It collapsed and we were out of power for, I don't know, a good 2 weeks before it was restored. Look, when it comes to this whole off-roading, overlanding thing, I know that there are a ton of other people with more trail hours under their belt than I do. But when it comes to storm prep, when it comes to hurricanes, I have been living in this state since 1995, and I have seen my share of hurricanes. I've been through so many of them, and every single time I am learning something new. But the great thing about this whole overlanding, camping, off-roading hobby is that a lot of the gear that I use for that stuff just transitions so seamlessly into hurricane prep. So today I'm gonna kind of show you some of the gear that I use for overlanding camping that I also use for hurricane prepping, as well as some other things you might also want to have at your house. This is not just for hurricane prepping. There's a lot of you who don't live in the South, but you might live in Tornado Alley, or you might live in an area that is prone to wildfire, or you might live in an area that gets blizzards every winter, and a lot of the gear here will work in those situations as well. So the way that I'm going to present the gear is I'm going to categorize each of these things into what I found to be the 3 scenarios that you'll find yourself in during a storm. And those 3 categories to me are bug out, during the storm, and then the aftermath of the storm. So let's start with bug out. That is always going to be my #1 option. The moment I have an opportunity to, if I see the storm is going to be coming our way, then I want to get the hell out of Dodge as quickly as possible. Remember in Karate Kid 2 when Mr. Miyagi said to Daniel, the best defense is to not be there. The key is getting out as early as possible. Do not wait until the last minute, because everyone else is also going to be leaving, and if you wait until then, you're going to be stuck in traffic and the storm could possibly come while you're still on the road. Now the thing about bug out is you don't need to bring everything, because the key here is you're getting away from the path and you're going to be going to an area where food will be available, water and fuel will be available, so you don't necessarily need to pack everything with you. But I do bring some stuff just in case we might happen to get stuck on the road with other cars, middle of traffic, and things start to take a turn. So I do want to be prepared for that. But for the most part, once we get out of town and we're in a safer area, then all the stuff that I brought is basically, I don't really need it anymore. Good thing about camping and overlanding too, though, is that most of the gear that I use for survival anyway, it's already on the Jeep. Now, one of the most important things you're going to want to bring with you in a bug out scenario are first aid kits. And I don't care where you get it from. I don't care if you built it yourself. Just have a really good first aid kit ready to go. I personally like my Medic. I love the quality of their stuff. And I have 2 of their really great kits here that are backpack styled. When it's bug out scenarios, I like to have the backpack style, because if you need to bug out of your vehicle as well, then you can just carry this a lot easier than having to haul like a huge first aid kit with your hands. If you're also like a hiker and you have a group of hikers with you and you're in charge of medical, then having something that's backpack style makes it a little bit easier to carry. Over here I have the Recon, and over here I have the Essentials. This is the kit that my Medic suggests you bring, because it's basically very comprehensive in the most emergency kind of situations. This one is the Essentials kit that my wife got years ago, and I don't even think my Medic sells this one anymore, but I wish they did. This is basically a bug out bag in and of itself. It has first aid kits, but it also has a lot of other essentials like beanies, gloves, sunglasses, like little things that you might need to survive is all in here. We went through the contents of this, but we've never opened anything, which is why there's still a tag on here, because literally we hope we never have to use this, but in the event that we have to bug out and survive, this is basically our kind of like a break glass and in case of emergency type of bug out bag. But just so you know, I do have a regular bug out bag. This is something that's always in my vehicle. This is also kind of my get home bag. It has a bunch of stuff on it, from like, you know, hunting knives to flints to whatever else you can think of in those kind of scenarios. But you know, we don't live in the woods, right? And a lot of people talk about prepping and stuff, and they bring all this stuff for forest survival, which sometimes is not really even needed, because in the event that I have to like bug out of my vehicle, I'm not crossing any woods. There are none here. So a lot of the stuff that I have on here are more urban survival stuff. I'm not going to go over all the stuff, but just know that I do have something that when we leave, I have some necessities in here ready to go. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't think about, and that is a portable safe. I'm not talking about a big safe where you put all your important documents in, but then you have to leave the house. Now you can't bring that with you. And a lot of people also like to file all their stuff like in filing cabinets. Well, if you need to leave the house, now you got to go through every one of those folders to find the important stuff. Get yourself a portable safe that's easy to carry, but is also like fireproof, waterproof, things like that, because everything we own that is important to us, birth certificates, insurance policies, social security cards, the deeds to the house, everything is in here. I also have a USB drive that has copies of all that in here as well. That way, in case we need to leave, all I got to do is go into my closet, grab this, and bring it with us and get the hell out. And just in case in all that craziness, we happen to forget this at home, because it is fireproof and waterproof. Hopefully, when we come back, if the house is damaged or had fire or had flooding, this should still be intact and all of our documents are safe. I mean, yeah, you could go online and reapply for Social Security and get your birth certificate, but that would just be a nightmare, having to try to get all those documents again. I also wouldn't really trust putting documents in lockboxes like at the bank. If it's in your town and a hurricane hits your town, that bank could get damaged as well. And now you gotta go and see if you can retrieve it. I personally would rather have my documents with me. It's on my persons and I know where it is at all times. So the next thing I bring is water. And you don't need to bring a lot, because the goal is to get out of town. And when you get out of town, go somewhere safe, there's going to be gas stations that has fuel and water and food, and you'll be able to get all that stuff. But the reason why I do bring water with me, in the event that you're stuck in traffic for hours, you know, trying to get out of town, and everyone else is trying to get out of town, and you're running out of water, you know, you're sitting there for 6 hours in traffic and people start getting thirsty, or you're drinking up your water supply, then having water there is going to be important. Same with snacks. Bring snacks like you would for like a regular road trip. Have that on hand and ready to go in case anyone gets hungry. Now, speaking of water, I do the same thing with fuel. I do have that Titan fuel tank that's already on the Jeep, and I will usually fill that up with fuel as well in case that we're stuck in traffic for hours and fuel supply starts to get really low. Well, I have an extra, basically an extra tank of fuel at the ready. I've never needed to use it before because, again, our motto here is to get out before everybody else is trying to get out. So let's say you decide you're not going to bug out. Let's say you decide you're going to hunker down at home and weather the storm. My wife works in the ER, and if she's scheduled to work on a day that a hurricane's going to be coming in, she still has to go to work. In that situation, I'm not going to leave town. I got to stay in town, and that'll just be me and my son. So we have to sort of be prepared when the storm comes through. So first up is you're going to want to have some really good radios. These are super invaluable. You need to be updated on the storm. Has it already made landfall? Is it over you? Has it already passed you? Or are there tornado warnings in your area? Because at some point during the storm, power is going to go out. Cell signal is going to go down. All those type of things, but you still need to be updated on what the storm is doing, and having some radios will allow you to do that. These two are from Midland. This one is going to stay stay basically at home. I can keep this plugged up, keep it powered on until the power goes out, and then there are batteries for backup. This will be great for like a countertop type of radio. And then this one will be great for my bug out bag. This is like your emergency radio that you can take wherever with you. It has solar and it also has a crank. So if you do need to crank it, it does have a crank back here. Now, if you don't have a portable radio like that, you can also use your walkies. Having communications during a storm is vital as well. This one is the Midland GXT 67 Pro. This thing can hit repeaters, has weather stations. You want something like this because you can also listen in with this as well. But having comms during a storm is important. There have been times when some of us guys had to go out and basically look around the house to see if there's any damage. The storm is coming in and we need to be able to communicate to each other over all of that howling wind and rain. And sometimes I'll be in one room, they're in another room, and we're communicating back and forth like, hey, does everything look good over there? Yeah, everything looks good over here. And this is all while a storm is passing over us. We're constantly monitoring things for leaks or blown out windows, things like that. Speaking of comms, this is the Garmin InReach Mini. It's a satellite communication device. This is crucial in the event that cell signal goes down and you need to call for help. I will say though, in the middle of a storm, no one is coming. There's not going to be any ambulances. There's not going to be any fire trucks. There's no search and rescue, not while a storm is going on. But when the storm has passed and things have calmed down and they do have rescue teams out already, cell signal might still be down. And if someone in your home is injured or needs medical assistance, you need to be able to get in touch with the authorities for that. And having satellite service is going to be invaluable and life-saving for you. So next up is rain gear. You want to get a good rain jacket, something that's not going to soak right through, maybe some rain pants, some rain boots. For the record, let me tell you, do not step outside during a hurricane. It is very, very dangerous. It's windy. There's a lot of debris that's flying. You could get killed by something that's flying in the air. However, in those situations where you have to, then you want to have good rain gear when you're stepping out. I was in a situation a long time ago, I think it was during Hurricane Wilma, where we were inside a house and I looked in the backyard and I saw that there was something that had not been hunkered down. And if I don't grab it, that thing is going to go flying and it might break something. So thank God the hurricane hadn't rolled through yet, but it was already raining. There was already some slight wind, and threw on my rain gear, went out there, grabbed what I needed, hunkered down a couple other things that I needed to hunker down, and then came back inside. So you want to have really good rain gear in the event that you need to do that. So during a storm, another thing you're going to want to have is a really good and beefy flashlight. This is the one that I use. This is the Olight Warrior X, and this thing is a beast. I mean, like, it's so robust, it's heavy. You don't want to be using your little tiny EDC flashlight. I mean, yeah, if this is all you have and it's in your pocket in the moment, then yeah, you can use this. But in the middle of a storm, the storm's coming over your house, power is going to go out, and you're going to want to kind of go around your house and survey things. Or in situations that I've been in, I might hear a crash outside, like did something just fall or did something just get blown away, and I want to be able to go and take a quick peek and see if anything out there had fallen. And that's what these kind of flashlights are really good for. This is something that you're going to definitely want to have. And then finally, this is something that a lot of people don't think about until they realize they needed it. My friend told me the story of a hurricane that he was in. Him and his family were in the living room and they heard a crash, and they look and realized that something had basically flown through one of their windows. They had not boarded that particular window up because this storm was not going to be as serious as they thought it was going to be. And now they had to go grab some plywood, grab a drill, grab some screws, and he had to basically hold that plywood in place while his dad screwed around it to keep it from popping back out. And that might happen to you. You might have your house boarded up from the outside. Maybe you don't have shutters. Maybe you don't have that and you have like just plywood. And let's say those holes kind of just popped out, like it didn't grip, and you need to get out there with some screws and a drill and or a driver, you're gonna need to have those things on hand to be able to get that plywood back on. You also want something like a crowbar in the event that something got stuck and you need to jimmy the thing out. You need to have that on hand as well. You also might need a hammer, have some screws, have some nails, have extra plywood even, right, that can cover up a window in case something like that happens. Have some plywood nearby that you can grab right away. So that's something that I never thought about before. I mean, we all have tools, but sometimes our tools might be in the garage or it's out of reach, and something like that happens, you got to go get your tools. So just having tools on hand and having it be ready in those kind of like scenarios will save you a ton of time and getting that thing resolved so that it doesn't get any worse. All right, so you decided to hunker down and the storm has passed, or you decided to bug out and now you have clearance to come back home, and you get home and you find that your property is fine with minimal to no damage at all and it's still livable. Well, here comes the part where a lot of people underestimate, which is the aftermath of the storm. That's the part where you really have to be prepared, because cell signal is going to be down, electricity might be down, running water is going to be non-existent, and you're going to need to be able to prepare to weather that part of it until all those services are back up and running. Now, the easiest way to prep for the aftermath of a storm, which I'm hoping you already did before the storm even came, is to just think about basic human needs. What do you need for food, water, and shelter? If you look at things through that lens, then it makes it a lot easier to determine what you have to have. So let's start with water. One of the things that we have in abundance of at our house all the time are water bottles, water gallons, things we've bought at the store a long time ago. Because one thing I do not like to do is go to the store 2 days before a storm hits and try to beat everybody in getting that water. You'll find that you'll get there and the supply is low or it's completely empty because everybody else already bought it out. And one thing that I also do is I take every water container we have in the house and we pre-fill that with drinkable water. Things like our Nalgene's, growlers, or even the Stanley water jug that we used to use for camping, but we don't anymore. And we just use it now for basically hurricane prepping. And then I even fill my Roto packs just in the event that the water bottles or gallons of water that we bought at the store before runs out, we have some reserves. Now I also fill up this guy. This is a 20-liter water jug from Scepter, and I actually did a video on this, on how I modified this so that it could be pressurized. It's one of the most popular videos I actually have on this channel. So if you want to see how I modified it, go search my channel for that video and you'll be able to modify your own. But this is not drinkable water. I use this specifically for washing dishes or bathing. I also fill up the water port that I have on the vehicle. I fill that up with water as well so that we can use that for bathing and washing dishes also. Now, as far as food, I am hoping that way before the storm, you've already pre-stocked your pantry with canned goods, non-perishable items, MREs, things like that that will help sustain you during the time where you can't necessarily go to the store and buy food. When it comes to preparing that food, we keep it simple. I use basically the same stuff that I use when we go camping and overlanding, which is our Blackstone and the Jet Boil. This one runs on butane, this one runs on propane, and I know that a lot of people in the overland camping world has kind of transitioned into like electrical cooking, which is awesome, which is great. However, for me, I don't want to, in the aftermath of a storm, I don't want to have to utilize my power banks to cook. I already have propane and I can get that easily and be able to cook whatever I need. Now, personally, I like using the Blackstone. I can just cook a bunch of different things on here. It's very versatile. If you have a scuttle, you can use that one as well. Now, for items that we cook that don't require a stovetop, that's when we use the Jet Boil. The Jet Boil boils water so fast. It's like that. And you can also use this to cook ramen, cook soup, or if you have some MREs, you can just drop it in there, put some water, let it boil, and you'll have a meal. The size that we have is the Sumo. They have smaller versions if you want to keep things light, but I don't mind the bigger size and taking up real estate because this allows me to basically provide boiled water or meals for my entire family. I also like how compact the Jetboil is. You basically have your burner down here, and this acts as a bowl if you want to eat out of this. It is also a strainer up here in the cover, and then you also get a little stand that's attached to that. And then inside you get this. You can basically use this also as a stove. You just take this attachment, put it on top. I actually use this to brew my coffee using my percolator. You can put a pot on top of this, or you can take this out and attach it to the bottom like this, and you'll basically be boiling water in no time. Now, most likely prior to even a storm hitting, you have stuff in your fridge that if you don't tend to them, they're going to spoil when the electricity cuts off. And that's when having Overland 12-volt fridges come in super handy. We have two fridges, one in the Jeep, one in the 4Runner. I take them out of the vehicle, I bring them in the house, plug them up to a power bank, and I use those as my running fridge until the power gets cut back on. Now, if for some reason all the food that's in your fridge doesn't fit into the 12-volt fridges you have for overlanding and camping, which is gonna be 100% of the time because we always have a bunch of stuff in our house fridge, then get some coolers out, get some ice in there, throw in some of that perishable food in there and try to preserve it for as long as you can. What we like to do is we go through all of our perishable food first because we know that that can spoil. And after we've gone through that, and if the electricity and stuff hasn't come back on yet, then we can transition over to the non-perishable stuff like the canned foods, the MREs. We wait till the very end to eat those. So now let's move on to shelter. And these are items that will kind of make living basically bearable during the times when you don't have running water, you don't have electricity, you don't have internet. Well, you need power. And I've talked about before all the power bank reviews I've done. I like to bring the smaller ones because I already have a dual battery set up in the Jeep. But during hurricane prep, like when we're at home, that's when I bust out the big ones. Like all the power banks that I have that are like this one is the AC 180, which is like what? This is 1800 watts, 1152 watt hours. I also have the Anchor C1000. I also have the Zero Breeze Elect Hive, and those are like humongous power banks that these are the ones that we use. I'll put them in different rooms of the house so that we can charge up phones, charge up radios, charge up our fridges, especially to keep those running. And also, here's the thing about hurricanes. Usually after a hurricane passes, it's gonna be super sunny. Clear skies, no clouds. Those are the perfect times to take out your solar panel and recharge your batteries during the day. Have some solar panels around. This one is for the Elect Hive. This is from Zero Breeze. Sometimes I'll even use a solar panel that's attached to the Jeep, and I'll plug up my batteries to that so that I can get those charged up as well. But you wanna keep some power going. All the little small power banks you also might have, like things for your phone and little pocket ones, get those charged up as well before a storm comes so that those are filled and ready to go. You also want to get some batteries on hand. Having a good battery case like this that keeps it organized, you definitely want these on hand. Get a sampling of them. D batteries, C batteries, AA's, AAA's, 9-volt batteries. I have a whole bunch of different ones on here for whatever items I might have to still require them. Be a power hoard is what I'm saying. Everything that you have that can supply power to different devices, have them all be topped off and ready to go because you're definitely going to need it those first few days after a hurricane. Speaking of power, for those of you who still run fuel generators, make sure you take all the jerry cans you have in the house and fill that up with fuel. And do that ahead of time, way before a hurricane is even coming. Don't be the guy that's waiting in line, just like everyone else, to fill up your tanks, because by the time you get to the pumps, they might have already ran out of fuel. So make sure you take care of that ahead of time. Just get some fuel stabilizer, put that in the fuel, and that'll help you make your stockpile of fuel last for like a year or so. So that way you can continue using it, even way past the fact that it should have already expired. Personally, I don't stockpile fuel anymore. I just make sure both vehicles have a full tank of gas. I also fill up the Titan fuel tank that I have on the Jeep, and that's pretty much it. Because with all the power bank technology that's out there now, I would rather run all of my items off of power banks and solar panels versus trying to run a fuel generator outside. We talked about flashlights during a storm, but you're also going to want overall lighting at night. And for that, thank God for Devos. I absolutely love their camp lights. They are so perfect for just creating overall lighting, and they're super compact. They come with stands, and these can go up to 9 feet in the air. This is the Devos 1200, their very first one. Very easy to use, just one button. You press that and the overall lighting is all around, and you can kind of dim it down if you need to. And it also comes with different filters that you can buy that you can change the color on. I have the amber filter on it right now, but you can keep it fully white if you'd like that. And then the new one is the 2000, where you don't need filters because you can change the colors right here. This is 2000 lumens, whereas this one is 1200 lumens. But also, again, you can change like basically the intensity of it, so you don't have to have all four lit up. But you can also change the color with the other button. You can go from amber to red and then back to white again. But in the situation where, let's say, these completely die out and electricity still has not come back on, we also have these emergency candles here. These are 100-hour plus emergency candles. Just make sure, please, don't have anything near these, and make sure to put them out before you go to bed. Now here's another camp light that I haven't used in a very long time, just because this is a camp light, but it's just humongous, and I don't like to have to pack this in the vehicle. This is the FSR Ready light. I mean, this thing is massive, right? So you're gonna get a lot of light with this, and each of these also come out and light up on their own. I don't even know if this has power, which reminds me to get it charged up. So yeah, it looks like these are dead. But what's really good about this one is the back of this has a solar panel. So during the day, keep this outside, let it get charged up, and then at night, you'll be able to light this up. The reason why this packaging is so big is because the entire like tripod situation thing is all in here. It's all encompassing. I used to use this for camping until I got slimmer with the Devo stuff. But at home, I'm never going to give this away because I do still want to be able to use this in those situations where power goes out and we do need some light, and be able to charge it up during the day with that solar panel. And then finally, one thing that a lot of people tend to overlook when prepping for the aftermath of a storm is just how hot it's going to be. You have no power, no AC. You have to find a way to cool yourselves down. And for that, we have two things. One, our portable AC unit from Zero Breeze. Just forewarning though, this eats up a lot of power. Put this to a power bank, you're gonna get 14 hours at most. So use this sparingly. Now the other piece of gear that we use is a fan, but get the fan that you don't need to plug in. This one is actually battery powered. This one is from Set Power, and you can recharge this back up because it has a power bank in the very back right here. So this is great also for camping. It's small enough that you can kind of bring it with you. If you also have those like construction fans, like from DeWalt or Ryobi, have those on hand as well. But you definitely want to find a way to keep cool because it's going to get really hot inside your house. All right, so I think I got through all the gear. I know it's a lot, and I know this video is probably super long, but I like to be prepared, especially with these type of things. Unlike overlanding and camping with a vehicle and you can only bring so much stuff, we have a house. So whatever I can keep stockpiled here for when the storm comes, the better. Whether that's food, whether that's water, whether that's power, whatever it is, I like to have those things on hand. I know you're not gonna have every single piece of gear that I have, and I may not have all the gear that you might have. It's all just, you learn with every single storm on what you need next. I hope that if you do go through a hurricane, that you came out of it unscathed. I hope your house came out of it unscathed, and that you were safe, and that your family is safe. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you don't smash, prep that like button, subscribe to our channel, Click that notification bell so we can let you be aware of new videos when they come out. And if it moves you, support us on Patreon. It gives you access to all of our videos before everyone else and gives you access to our live streams when we do them. And as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at BSuburban4601. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time.